In this video, we will cover what exactly is generative AI and how does it differ from deep learning, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. AI is essentially the broader umbrella. That's where we're showing the circle on the page, right? It covers many topics. Artificial intelligence is essentially letting machines learn about human kind of intelligence, being able to reason, being able to create logic, being able to create everything that human beings do, right? Understanding the language, understanding music, understanding science, math, everything. So everything comes under artificial intelligence, AI. And under that, there's the machine learning. There's a specific field of how do you make these machines learn, and a lot of machine learning goes into the mathematical uh, algorithms like back propagation, gradient descent, and reinforcement learning. So many things like that. And under that umbrella, there's actually deep learning neural networks, which is what Jeffrey Hinton actually pioneered, and many other people as well. Worked on this deep learning algorithms. And within the deep learning, we also have the generative AI, which we are using it today, the chat GPTs of the world, the Geminis, and music generation and video generation, all those things. So the main difference between the traditional machine learning models is machine learning models before ChatGPT came out. Most of the companies were using the traditional machine learning model where they predict an outcome. For example, the best example of that is how YouTube and Facebook actually figure out what kind of video that you are likely to watch, even Netflix, right? So based on all the data from many people and everybody's viewing patterns and your own viewing pattern, these machine learning models are trained to predict, you know uh, what is the likely outcome of you watching that video, 70%, 80%, 50%, something like that. So it's essentially a prediction machine, right? They don't generate anything. Whereas in generative AI, like large language models, they can generate new content like, text, images, videos, and everything. And that is what is obviously revolutionizing the whole aspect of AI field. That's what most of us are talking today. If you look at the generative AI technology stack today, there's obviously a lot of hardware, GPUs and the TPUs. NVIDIA makes the GPUs, Google makes the TPU. That's basically the chips that power these entire AI models. And all the AI models can run on this particular hardware, whether it is traditional ML models, generative AI models, video model, anything can run on that. There's a software optimization layer on top of it, like the cloud platforms that provide the entire infrastructure to run these things, the data centers and everything else. And on top of it is where these large language models are running, the GPT model, the Gemini models, the Claude Opus Sonnet models, DeepSeek models, all this kind of stuff. And ChatGPT is essentially not a model, it is really an application on the top that provides the chat interface. And it also remembers all your previous charts. It also does a lot more things before it actually calls a LLM through an API call. So this is the entire generative AI stack. We'll get a little bit deeper into this at some point. And this is essentially what really happens underneath these models. You input some text, they get tokenized, they create something called embeddings, and we train the models with the transformer architecture, which Google guys came out with in 2017. And when you run through this particular model, it is going to predict something, some kind of an output, the next token or whatever it is. That is fundamentally how it works. And the three main steps of actually training these models is there's something called a pre-training stage, there's something called a fine-tuning stage, and how do you actually deploy these models and run. pre-training stage is where the large language models are actually going to understand the patterns within the language, the relationship between the words, the relationship between the sentences, all that stuff. And in the fine tuning phase, it actually learns how to behave, you know, in terms of, hey, if a user asks a particular question, what is the right way to respond? What kind of output is something the user really prefers? Those are the things that happens in the fine tuning. There's lots of different fine tuning technologies are there. Within that fine tuning, there is also a new kind of a training called reinforcement learning, which is what is actually creating really good reasoning models today. And once the model is created, you got to go deploy it. And deploying is essentially putting it in your cloud infrastructure and running it on prem, and making it useful for the people, right? Available through APIs and different other ways. And that is, and training these things that now is costing a lot of money. This is actually old data on the GPT-4, but the latest models are using upwards of millions of GPUs, and it will take about 3 to 4 months easily to train them. And the cost is going from anywhere from $100 million to $1 billion, and it could even keep going higher. So this is about the how the models are trained.